Video, we'll be going over IRS Form 6198, at-risk limitations. This is a tax form that you might file during the year with your tax return if your business had any amounts that were not at risk as part of your business activity, and that business activity incurred a loss. So, generally speaking, taxable income for businesses can be offset by or business losses, but there are certain limitations that you might be subject to. So in this case, at-risk limitations is the limitation on the amount of loss that you can take on your business taxes, specifically to the amount of money or capital or your investment that is at stake versus the amount of your investment that might be guaranteed or protected against loss. So if 100% of your income is from or loss is from a business where you invested completely in the business, or you took out a loan for which you are guaranteeing the loan, then that means that business doesn't have any at-risk limitations. But if you've taken out a non-recourse loan, if you have any cash or property or borrowed amounts that are protected against a loss by a guarantee, stop loss agreement, or similar arrangements, aside from insurance, which you purchase at your own risk, if there are any amounts that you borrowed from a person that has an interest in the activity other than as a creditor, so any related parties, things of that nature, then you would need to go through to determine how much of your business income or loss is attributable to the business that was funded by money that wasn't put at risk. So non-recourse loans, basically if you walk away from the loan, nothing happens to you. Stop loss agreements, usually that means something about, if you put up $100,000, you'll get all but $90,000 or all but $10,000 back. That might be some sort of a stop loss guarantee. So basically, there are certain activities that where the at-risk limitation rules apply. So you can read more about that in detail in the form instructions. We're going to focus more on what you actually do if you have a loss that qualifies for this calculation. So in part one, we're going to calculate the current year profit or loss from this activity. And then part two and part three, we're going to go through two different ways that you can compute the amount at risk. There's a simplified computation, and then part three has a detailed complication. And then part four simply breaks down how much of that is a deductible loss, and then what you would do with the rest of the loss that's not deductible in the current year. So we'll put links in the show notes to any resources we've created about tax forms that we mention here. We'll also put links in the show notes to the article that we recently updated. So let's go ahead and just start with the information at the top of the form. So let's just say we're going to put the description of the activity. We're just going to put that it's Doe Enterprises. It's his company. We'll say that it's his S corporation, so we'd be putting some information about income reported on his Schedule K1. So in part one, we're going to basically enter the amount of ordinary income or loss from this activity without regard to the at-risk limitations. So let's just say that, so this would not include any ordinary gains or losses from the sale or other disposition of assets used in the activity or any interest in the activity itself. Those amounts will be entered down here. So this is simply the business loss from that activity. So it could be income or it could be loss. Let's just say that this was a $10,000 loss. Now we have gains from the sale or other disposition of assets used in the activity, as reported on Schedule D, IRS Form 4797, or some other form or schedule. So let's talk about, we would combine long and short term capital gains and losses, long and short ordinary gains and losses from the sale or other disposition of assets used in the activity. So let's just say that we have a $5,000 gain on the disposition that we put on Schedule D, and then let's just say that we put I can't think of a situation where this would actually apply. We're simply putting in numbers based on, to kind of visualize the calculations. And then let's just say that we would put in right here maybe a casualty loss of $1,000. And we'll just say, we would annotate in the side 4684. So, and then a line 3, we're going to include any other income and gains from the activity from our Schedule K1. Let's just say that were not reported here. And let's just say that ends up being minus $5,000. Other income or deductions and losses from the activity, let's include the investment interest expense allowed from IRS Form 4952, which is the investment interest expense limitation form. Let's just say that there's $1,000 worth of that there. So we're going to combine all of those, and that's going to help us arrive at the current year profit or loss. So let's see, it looks like minus $13,000. So now that's the possible loss that we can deduct. We're now, and if 100% of that loss was attributable to a company where 100% of our interest was at risk, then we wouldn't be completing this form. We would be eligible, at least from an at-risk perspective, for that $13,000 loss. There might be some other limitation, but the at-risk rules mean that we have to calculate a proportional amount based on what we have at risk. So now we're going to go through two different ways to calculate this. We're going to go through part 2, and then we're going to go through part 3, even though you generally only need to do one or the other. So if you do use part 3, you don't need to go back and do part 2. And you can do both. You would basically pick so what you end up doing is you can run two separate calculations, and then you're going to enter the bigger one of either line 10B or line 19B. But again, if you use part 3, you don't have to go back and do part 2. So the adjusted basis on the first day of the tax year, can't enter less than 0. Let's just say it's $100,000. And we're going to, for simplicity's sake, that's going to be the same. So this is a different definition down here. It's called consider the investment in the activity, whereas up here in part line 6, it's the adjusted basis, which could be different. Then increases for the tax year, according to the instructions, do not include the income that we calculated up here or the losses. We would include changes during the tax year that increase your amount at risk, such as the net value, the net fair market value of any property that you own, increase in the amount of cash, increase in the amount of loans that you use to finance the activity for which you are personally responsible, not non-recourse debt, or the percentage depletion for this year deducted in excess of the adjusted basis of any depletable property. So those are all increases for the tax year. So let's just say that we had $10,000 of increases. We're going to add lines 6 and 7, and we get $110,000. Now in line 9, we have to go through decreases. So that includes non-recourse loans or recourse loans that were converted to non-recourse loans. It also includes any cash, property, or borrowed amounts that are protected against loss by a guarantee, stop loss agreement. Any amounts that were borrowed from a person that has an interest in the activity other than as a creditor or someone who's a related person. And then finally, withdrawals and distributions during the tax year. Sorry, not finally. Withdrawals and distributions during the tax year, both cash and adjusted basis of any non-cash items, to include assets that were used to pay certain debts. And then finally, any non-recourse liabilities that you included on line 6 of property that you contributed. So if you put property in here, then any increase in the non-recourse loans attributable to that would decrease the basis. So let's just say that there's a $20,000 decrease, which means we're going to have $90,000. Now, if line 10A is more than 0, we're going to enter that amount here. So now we can go to line 20, we can put that amount here, or we can complete part 3. Part 3, so basically we're going to go through this calculation. Investment in the activity, we'll just say that it's the same as up here. However, technically, there is a worksheet that you can go through in the IRS form instructions. It goes step by step to help you calculate your basis. It takes a lot of other variables into consideration. And then in line 12, you have another worksheet where you calculate your losses from years before the effective date being the first day of the year. There's a lot of kind of off-form calculation, but again, the increases would include the net fair market value of any property that secures the non-recourse loans, any total losses from years before the effective date for which there were equal or greater amounts not at risk, and that's where you would use the line 12 worksheet. So let's just say that $10,000. We're going to add this together. And now the decreases at the effective rate include all of the items that we previously mentioned. And so let's just say that that's kind of the same. So now we check the box at either the effective date or the prior year's Form 6198. And so if you completed the prior year's part 3, you would check box B. You carry this forward. So if you carried the prior year's 6198, you can skip all this. You would just simply enter whatever the 919B amount is. So, and that goes back to what it says here. If you completed part 3, see the instructions. So if you did complete it, you would start on line 15. And then you would say increases since either the effective date or the end of your prior year. So we're just going to, so this basically looks like this, but let's just say that, so I'm going to guess that we probably could have done something like this, and we get so now we start at our basis that was basically the same thing here. And then let's just say that at the end of the prior year or the effective date, whichever one applies to your situation, we have $10,000 of increases. We would add these up. And then we have decreases since that time frame. And that gets us to $90,000. If line 19A is more than 0, you would enter that amount and go to line 20. Otherwise, enter 0. And then you would have to go to the IRS publication 925 to see what you would do, since that's the publication that has to do with basis and recapture. So enter the larger of either 10B or 19B. In this case, this is the same, mainly because I backwards engineered the result more to kind of walk through how you would calculate this. The deductible loss would be the smaller of the line 5 loss, which is up here, $13,000, or line 20. So if you treated this as a positive number, that's $13,000. $90,000 would be our limitation. So we're able to take all of the loss this year. Now, if there was some sort of a limitation, then you would limit the amount. You basically would. You would have to limit the amount of your deductible loss on line 20, subject to other limitations. So, for example, in the form instructions, if line 5 was a loss of $1,600 and line 20 was $1,200, you would enter $1,200 here, and then you would have to follow the instructions for your tax return to figure out what you would be able to do with the rest. Generally speaking, it looks like any disallowed portions would be carried forward to the next year, but the form instructions do defer to the specific tax return instructions. So it's going to look different for someone that's carrying forward a loss on their Form 1040 versus a Form 1065 versus a Form 1120S. So this would just simply allow you to calculate the amount of loss that you can deduct based on the at-risk rules. You would still need to defer to your specific form instructions on how to treat any disallowed loss for future tax year purposes. So that's all we have for this form. Took a little bit longer to go through the details as I was making sure to include notes from the updated form instructions. So as I mentioned, we'll put links to everything in the show notes that we mentioned here, or at least any of the resources that we've created and updated. So check those out in the show notes. With the articles, if you like our articles, please subscribe to our newsletter. If you like our YouTube videos, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And as always, if you have any questions or comments, or if there's another topic that you'd like to see in an upcoming video, please hit me up in the comment section. Thank you very much and have a great day.